So something shifted during New York Fashion Week. The runway just became an operating system for retail. I'm here to walk you through how technology is changing fashion and Fashion Week rapidly. So this season, something structurally shifted. For decades, the runway and revenue lived in two separate worlds. Runway meant visibility, while retail meant conversions, but they never really converged together. Fashion Week was all about influence and not infrastructure. But this week, AI collapsed the distance between inspiration and transaction. When that gap collapsed, everything changed. So what we saw across New York Fashion Week was not really isolated tech activations. It was coordinated shifts towards measurable commerce. The runway just became retail's operating system. So let's be clear. If you think that New York Fashion Week is still about the editors, the celebrities, or the front row optics, then you've absolutely just missed the subtle shifts that happen thanks to fashion technology. My name is Jessica Couch. I'm a fashion and technology expert, and I go to conferences and do research so that you don't have to. In this particular season, something structural shifted. For decades, the runway and revenue lived in separate worlds. Runways meant visibility, while retail meant convergence. Runway meant visibility and retail meant conversions. Typically, Fashion Week is about influence and not so much infrastructure. This year, AI collapsed the distance between inspiration and transactions. And when that gap closes, everything changes. What we saw during New York Fashion Week was not just about technology activations to just wow consumers, both the retail aspect and infrastructure coming together to create more commerce directly intertwined into New York Fashion Week. There's a shift towards measurable commerce, and the runway is no longer just a cultural event of spectators. It's actually becoming a retail engine. I wanted to walk you through some of the fashion technology activations that happened during Fashion Week and their significance on what the future of retail would look like. Let's start with Les Agents and Google and their dream closet. Now, I may be saying this wrong, but this is where we're starting. You can always correct me. Les Agents partnered with Google to create a dream closet scenario. So people were invited into a fashion space so that they could see the collection. But it wasn't just about voyeurism. It wasn't just about watching. They partnered with Google so that the audience could become the models. So on the surface, it looked like a cool AI moment, but this was actually a functional AI moment that we always talk about. Guests entered a white and gold room. That was the installation during Fashion Week, and they were able to upload a photo of themselves. And just like with any try-on, they could see themselves or AI models in the actual collection pieces. Not only could they see themselves on the runway looks, but they could get a great understanding of how it would look on them, slightly adjusted for their bodies, not quite in the sense of fit technology. More importantly, they could pre-order immediately. So let's break this down. Historically, Fashion Week has gone like this. You are invited, you get to see some of the looks, you see it on a model, you have to wait until those items are either in store and online. You have to guess about how it might look on you, and you have to guess about what it may feel like. So then you buy it, you might return it, you might keep it. But there's a ton of friction in this pipeline that goes on between seeing something that you want and actually buying it. What Google and Les Agents did that was really spectacular was collapse the gap between inspiration, visualization, and transactions. Instead, this happened in one physical moment. So instead of watching the model, you became the model. Instead of waiting weeks to be able to purchase these items, you could purchase the items immediately. And instead of having to wonder how this would look, you could see an example of that. Psychologically, it's very powerful to give the consumer that type of power. One, it makes them feel more connected to the brand, and two, it satisfies that impulse of wanting to buy in the moment, which a lot of shopping and retail is built on. So this is more behavior conditioning. The idea of see now, buy now can become even more real because it's training the audience to expect personalization at the moment of cultural exposure. And here is the deeper signal. Luxury fashion just publicly normalized Gen AI. Luxury fashion traditionally stayed away from utility technology. It's a level of resistance there. Now that we're seeing a shift, that luxury fashion is actually embracing utility technology. This happened in not just any space, but this is an editor-facing, culturally approved space. So this wasn't a gimmick per se. This wasn't just a one-off type thing. This is an introduction that's going to shift expectations of buyers across the industry. Now, I've always been a fan of tech integration for luxury, because what could be a more luxurious experience than data personalization and having something cool that actually makes you buy? And this is what we saw. It's a focus on actually buying. So according to the analysts that attended and many people, New York Fashion Week actually felt different this year. And maybe because brands opted out of just doing runway things to doing immersive pop-ups. Now, I've talked a great deal about why immersive pop-ups are important, but the gamification of spaces, claw machines, and even some AR installations were all over Fashion Week. And this is bigger than just the aesthetics or lighting or some type of quick gimmick. It's just that fashion used to be more industry facing, and now it's opening up to be more public facing. The runway used to be about content, but now the audience is the content, and brands are relying on the audience to produce UGC, to have Instagrammable moments, to create these TikTok moments, and to really promote the brand on a peer-to-peer basis, which is also something we discuss in our thesis. How important is it for us to now be customer centric? Well, I do think that New York Fashion Week is actually showing us what customer centricity looks like in a brand new way. Even sponsors care a little bit more about engagement and share rate than they do about other metrics, because that's how important the peer-to-peer play is amongst shoppers. So this is really Fashion Week as a content engine. It's not just a who's who anymore. It's about engaging the audience and getting more people involved. And this is not random. As we've discussed many times before, there is a discovery crisis going on in fashion. And so what we need to do at every touch point is consider ways on how to get brands to get their products in front of the right people and how we get the right people to shop. Well, utilizing Fashion Week in this way kind of helps to bridge that gap. As brands create more immersive entry points for participation, then more customers are interested in purchasing. So it's not just about the spectacle of fashion anymore. We're here to actually drive measurable engagement that results in conversions. So the idea that discovery is an issue is no longer just a theory. We're seeing how brands are responding to it by utilizing technology, putting the customer first, and creating experiences that capture that see now, buy now moment, the impulsive shopping, the community aspect, and immersing your actual customers into your brand in a way that has never been done. So let's talk about Topshop's activation, which was pretty cool, and not the first time that Topshop has kind of led the way with technology, but certainly this time they've done something that is a bit more elevated. Topshop partnered with THG Studios to create what they called an AI-driven, immersive, shoppable catwalk. The concept was to have a physical catwalk that was live, where audience members were in attendance, but also it incorporated some of the virtual try-on. They had AI-powered multi-camera production that tagged the products in real time. And then they had a companion app. So they were able to capture this information. They had the companion app there. Guests could tap into front row AI to virtually try on the looks, as well as purchase mid-show. So let's understand why this is an important subtle shift. As I mentioned, for years, brands attempted the see now, buy now, but there was a ton of friction in the infrastructure of doing so. Typically, the experience was clunky, and this time they formalized it. You see, the runway became a live checkout funnel. So it's not just about visualization again. It's really about how do we quickly convert people that are interested in the brand, people that are excited about these drops, and people that want these products. So before, brands could not attribute value to an actual catwalk. Now it becomes measurable. When a catwalk becomes measurable, you can determine the ROI in a non-abstract way. Now the runway is clickable, it's measurable, and it has a great ROI. So I guess what we can expect next is other brands to rush into being some of the first to have shoppable shows and the first AI show, the see now, buy now, and do it in a way that's actually attractive to the customer. Does this mean that we could be entering a AI marketing arms race? Yes. What happens in fashion is people want to see who get it right before they actually copy it. Now that we've seen some examples of how it's been done, you can absolutely expect to see this repeated across various shows and brands. This is signaling a return of their traditional app where they've already done, Topshop has already done a catwalk, but this time they have this infrastructure to make it make sense, make it personalized, and it allows instant purchase, which is the best thing you can do at a show, is convert. Topshop is not the only retailer that is utilizing technology. ASOS also had an immersive experience for their customers. They're doing something that is structurally different. They aren't just building activations, they're embedding infrastructure. One of the things that ASOS has is ASOS Live, which is a creator-led runway content inside their shopping app. It pairs a hybrid virtual try-on, so you can see items on yourself or an AI model, which is absolutely typical to virtual try-on right now. And you can also do an in-app checkout. Now, this represents a closed-loop ecosystem that I do feel like a lot of other brands will also try and emulate, being that these things debuted around Fashion Week, which means they may become the norm. So you have your evaluations and transactions all in one place and all inside of one UX, which is super helpful. This could reduce returns, but it absolutely increases confidence and helps to reduce bounce, which is important for e-commerce brands who want to keep their customers entertained, but also get them to the path of purchase. So this also represents that ASOS is no longer just targeting editors at their shows. They're actually targeting shoppers directly and at all times, which speaks to the fact that discovery is a big issue. So Fashion Week for ASOS can become accessible in-app, and it's democratized, it's collaborative, and it creates an experience that they haven't had before, but they can capitalize on. See, consumers don't need more content per se. They need better ways to match themselves to the right products so that they can participate in the purchase process for brands, and brands can continue to collect that data and create better experiences. So ASOS is owning the inspiration and the confidence. So this isn't a campaign. This is embedded infrastructure, and the confidence to buy is super important for shoppers. Making that decision when the impulse is there and eliminating any friction is some of the better things that can be done. Next, let's move on to Ulta and Public School. So Public School debuted their collection at this year's Fashion Week after getting their company back and letting the world know that they are back in action, which is super exciting. Ulta is essentially a digital wardrobe app, so users can catalog the pieces of their wardrobe in their closet, and Ulta stores it so that it can give you suggestions and helps you understand your outfits. And yes, this is kind of has a paper doll feel to it because there is a virtual try-on experience associated with it as well. Public School integrated into Ulta, which means that by integrating into Ulta, not only do users have their own products from their wardrobe, but they got to experience, try on, and visualize Public School's products as well. This is subtle but important. Styling engines are moving from standalone apps and integrating into ecosystems that already exist. So this is another form of discovery that brands can utilize. The long-term implication is that identity can become portable. So no matter where you are shopping, you have a sense of the items that are in your closet, and brands can integrate into that, and you can see how those items mix and match. This is also important for brands who are partnering because perhaps there is a data share so that brands can better understand not only how are people pairing their products with what they have in existence, but maybe they could catalog the type of silhouettes, fabrics, and brands that customers have who are most likely to buy them. So this is just enhancing the digital identity of consumers who are now shopping across brands, but also able to take their personalized pieces with them. Now, this seems like it has endless implications for all sorts of retailers who are trying to get the right data and who also want to give a more enhanced experience to their customers. Next, during Fashion Week, Next and SAP partnered in a less sexy way where no, it wasn't Gen AI or virtual try-on, but SAP was able to partner with brands in order to create a frictionless infrastructure for their inventory management as well as their manufacturing. SAP is an enterprise retail that normally works across supply chain, inventory analytics, and data orchestration. So by partnering with Next at New York Fashion Week, Runway seemingly became an innovation lab. Here's the value. A lot of brands can generate hype, which is great. So they show a collection, people get really excited about it. And when it comes time to buy, there's a breakdown normally in their supply chain, which is their operational failures. So sometimes there's inventory misalignment, production breakdowns. More importantly, importantly, miss demand signals. SAP's presence allows brands to connect show data to operational excellence. So no more will brands have to suffer from not being able to meet the needs and fulfill those needs of the customers based on demand, but they are able to utilize this in a new way. And Fashion Week became a proof of concept in this space. So it's not always about the aesthetic showcases. Sometimes the operational technology makes the biggest difference in our industry as well, because being able to get the product to the right customer is extremely important. So maybe we could say that New York Fashion Week was quietly turning into NRF, but with better dressed people. And no shade to NRF, it is the best of the best when it comes to fashion tech. But this emergence of fashion and technology is now being legitimized. Next, let's talk about Gucci. So Gucci did two things during New York Fashion Week. First, they utilized AI models, but they did something different. They decided to label those models to avoid any of the past uproars that happened. And this is super important because they listened to how consumers felt about AI models. Second, they deployed AR accessories for platforms like Instagram and Snapchat so that their potential customers and customers could fully interact with AR examples of their accessories. Now, this is strategic accessory placement. It also matters for two important reasons. Luxury sales are down globally, especially for Kering. And two, luxury has to pay attention to their aspirational shoppers. And so, of course, the top 1% are buying the most expensive bags and having the experiences and coming into the stores. But as we learn with Saks closing, the aspirational customer is equally as important to luxury brands. And so what Gucci is able to do with their AR experiences is really engage that aspirational customer in a way that perhaps they wouldn't be able to do so if the customer is not coming into the store or going online. They're priming that customer for when they are ready to purchase. So this is a long-term cultivation play that I think is super important for luxury companies to take note of. Luxury is negotiating the tension between craft and computation, but also they're navigating transparency, which will become policy driven in the future. Gucci got ahead of this and utilized New York Fashion Week almost as a stress test. They were honest about the use of AI models, and they were able to put together something tech related for those aspirational shoppers, which is so important. So let's bring this all together because we covered a lot. Across all of these examples, one thing is clear. Fashion Week is no longer just about watching. Fashion Week is about participation. Fashion Week is about retail operational excellence. And Fashion Week is about meeting the customer wherever they may be, trying, participating, buying, measuring, tracking, and immersion were all the themes of this New York Fashion Week. More importantly, AI is collapsing runway and revenue into the same moment, which hasn't been done before. This isn't just hype. This is structural. This has long-term implications, and I do believe this will last. We are watching the runway evolve into a retail operating system, and never before has this happened. You see, once that expectation is set, there really isn't any going back. This may become the norm for the future of runway shows. This especially is most important for New York Fashion Week, which just a couple years ago, people kind of complained about. So now that we have a full understanding of how technology is emerging into Fashion Week, we can probably guess that this is something that will continue. Right now, Fashion Week is taking place in other places, so we'll figure out what's happening across the world. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this. My name is Jessica Couch. I'm a fashion and technology expert, and I go to conferences and do research so that you don't have to. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to Fit Technology 101 Substack and the Fit Technology 101 LinkedIn. I just released in the latest article a list of fashion tech conferences for March. So I will be releasing the list every month so that you can figure out where are the best fashion tech conferences for you to attend and what they're about. And if you haven't done so already, go to luxorandfinch.com. You can see the fashion technology calendar. You can submit your events if you have a fashion technology events, and you can download frameworks for your company to figure out which technology is best for you. So as you can see, a lot of brands are becoming more competitive by integrating the right technology. And if you're interested in also being competitive, I would advise you to go on my site, download the framework, and fill out those forms, work with your team, and then let me know how I can help you. Fashion technology is changing every day, and it's not going to stop. So to get ahead, you absolutely want to know what are the best technology available, what's relevant to you and how to stay competitive. So stay tuned for more information like this and follow me and subscribe.